Time's up. Let's do this.
We're in for a wild night.
Welcome everyone to episode 146 of Born to be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out with friends, talking about the Wild format of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the Wild community. I'm your host, as always, Nate Wolf. It is great to be back on an unusual day here. Today is a Sunday, but happy to be back. For those of you that listen to the audio version or video version, like probably no difference, but we were recording on a different time and day. It was a little bit of a technological mishap this week.
Technology!
As my computer decided to turn itself into a brick, and Blue Train helped me to fix it, so it was great. But I'm happy to be back and joined today, -1 +2. So, but joined by two of my favorite people. So, SchmoopieDaddy, welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I feel like a vampire in the daytime recording at this time. I'm bathed in natural light, which will reduce me to ashes if we keep this up for too long.
Uh-oh.
Cue the Murloculous soundboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't tempt me. I don't know how to stop it once it starts going. That's the problem.
But I'm doing very well. Happy to be back on.
Good. And ElectricSheepCity, welcome back. How are you?
Meowdy friend, I'm doing fantastic on this like sunny Sunday afternoon. Check it.
Right? It's so weird. So we're -1 Hydralisk today, unfortunately, but it's because we're recording at a weird time and date, and this is just what happened to work for the majority. Hydra will be back next week. We'll record like normal on Friday evening, but I'm happy that we didn't have to cancel entirely because there was a lot to talk about. There's a heavy news week, and so
yeah. So without further ado, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. Let me briefly explain how the show works. We record this podcast typically live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs, and the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all of the podcast apps. So, however you're watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
Hello. Yes, thank you all very much for being here. Thank you to those of you who are joining us live. It's always super cool to interact with y'all here, and also a big thank you to Shokunin, the executive producer of our show, and to all of our other patrons. Really appreciate your support. It means a lot to us, and thank you all for hanging out today. Real quick content plug before we start the show. If you're interested in supporting, there's a few ways that you can do it. Please, if you like, comment, subscribe, or whatever to our stuff on YouTube, that helps. If you leave any reviews on the podcast apps, that helps. If you are watching on Twitch, or if you're someone that uses Twitch a lot, we do have some emotes that you can unlock. There are some that you can get for free just by following. There are some that you can get by subscribing. That helps the show out. Yeah, if you do have Amazon Prime, you can do it for free with your Prime sub. Anyways, really appreciate all of you. If you are interested, I think we have a picture here, if I can find it, of these two lovely people wearing some Born to be Wild merch, if I can find it, since clearly I'm prepared for today's show. There we go.
You guys haven't slipped me her number, by the way. I'm a little upset about that.
See, we don't have her number, but I think you actually do.
Oh, right. Yeah. So look at these beautiful people wearing Born to be Wild t-shirts here. If you're interested in copying any of our merch, it's available on their website. Website is borntobewildhs.com. Again, borntobewildhs.com. If you go to the website, there's links to all of our stuff. So the YouTube, and there's links to all of the parody songs that we've done. There's links to the Discord channel. There's links to a shop where you can get t-shirts and stuff. It's kind of fun. So if you're interested, check it out. Lastly, yeah, we're talking about Discord real quick. If you're interested in interacting with any of us personally, we do have a Discord channel. It's a really fun place that we've had to interact with people from all across the world. We share deck lists, we share funny usernames, we share real life events and stuff, and just kind of chit chat. It's kind of turned into a tradition to look at the funny usernames from the past week. And this episode, there was a lot of poop names, not surprisingly. But this week goes out to the Poop Smasher, El Stanky Dank, Poop Zombie, and Diarrhea Boy.
That was my favorite, Diarrhea Boy.
And Pooper Macho. There you go.
Or not a poop related one, but SchmoopieDaddy captured Call Me Maybe.
That's pretty funny.
Which is quite appropriate for what we were just talking about a few
They were on
minutes ago.
Shutter's comment. It was horrible.
Oh, no.
SchmoopieDaddy posted Harry Potter, but it was playing Death Knight instead of Mage. I was so sad.
Warlock would have also been appropriate.
Warlock, yeah. There were some others that were great, but they're not family friendly. But if you go to the Discord, and I like Dr. Hulk Smash. That was pretty funny too. But anyways, yeah. So it's definitely been a week here in the Born to Be Wild universe. Life comes at you fast sometimes, and this week my computer decided to like totally bork out on Friday night. So here's what happened. Like I had the goal of like, hey, I'm gonna prep early. So what happens, I swear, every Friday night there's a Windows update, like when I'm trying to go live, and it always screws everything up. And so I was like, I'm gonna do it early this time. And so I got up before work, and lo and behold, there was a Windows update. And so I was like, all right, cool, I'm going to do it. And so I downloaded it, and I did. It was one of those gigantic ones. And so it's downloading, and then it installs, and then it gives me two options. Do you want to install and reboot, or do you want to install and shut down? And I was like, well, I got to leave. I got to go to work. So I hit install and shut down. And then I took off. And I come home, turn on the computer, and it just blue screen of death, infinite loop. And so it, from what we can tell, is just corrupted Windows install. But yeah, it was bad. So anyways, last month, so today's March the 5th. And so we're just like into the very beginning of the month, and it was kind of crazy. I hit Legends super late last month. I almost didn't do it. And I thought that I had more time, and then realized that February is such a short month. And I didn't think I was going to do it. And so I did on the last day of the month, right? It was the 27th, but it was like right after midnight. And so technically it was the last day, right? But I was looking at it, right? We talked about like, sometimes people take a month off here or there. And I was going back to the spreadsheet that you made. I've been keeping it up. So I've got right now consecutive 34-month win streak, or like 34 months of hitting Legend without stopping. And I was like, I can't break it. I got to just sit down and do this. And I had played a ton of Quest Mage. I was so frustrated. In the beginning of the month, I was just playing fun stuff. We had Robot Chicken on, and I was wanting to get Death Knight wins, and I was just playing like the fun stuff, and I kept losing. And I had gone back to I got 10x this month, and I'm so used to like at 11x facing these like all the try hard decks, and I just wasn't facing it. It was just it was like the greediest stuff, and finally I was like, all right, forget it. I'm just gonna cheat, and we'll play the cheat deck, and we'll just win with infinite turns. And Matt London is like, ha ha ha. It's like, no, you can't do that. And so, but anyways, I took it to Diamond 5, and then like I did some co-op with Blue Train on the 27th, and I swear we probably played for 3 hours, and like I was just bouncing up and down and up and down. It was like the games take forever, and there's so much RNG because you're discovering a bunch of random stuff. And finally I was like, you know what, forget this. I want quick games. And so I switched to Secret Mage and got there in like 45 minutes with an 80% win rate. And it was great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
80%. That's impressive.
It was awesome. It was so fast, and it was like, it got kind of late. So I'm glad that it went pretty fast from there. And so here's the list. Just the one from Tempo Storm. It's interesting though, when I first looked at this, the one card that stood out to me as being weird was Blade Master Okani. And I looked at it and I was like, why is Okani in this list? This seems bad. And then I started playing with it, and I was like, oh, like Okani was like turned out to be the MVP. And it is basically you plop him down, and he's either another counterspell or another objection.
Mm-hmm.
And
Another one.
right. And it was wonderful. It was crazy. So, and then but it was so stressful to do at the very last minute. I was like, no way, it's not happening again. And so as soon as the month turned over, like I was just started playing immediately, and I got to Diamond 4 on day 1. And so now I need to get there. So I'm like right between, I don't know if I'm Diamond 4 or Diamond 3 right now, but like right there. And so I just need to push a lot earlier this month, but I got there. I'm like, not allow the streak to be broken. Will not let that happen. Well, I got there out of pure stubbornness, I think, but.
Can I ask a question about the list?
Yeah.
Did you miss the Cloud Princes? Because they looked so bad statistically when people look up like HS replay and stuff like that. That's one of the cards that got cut. I think this is OTZ's list. I think. And what's interesting is he actually kept Valet, where I know like Corb and a lot of other people were cutting Valet. But yeah, that Okani, it's interesting. That was like almost like Pillager tech.
Yeah, it was interesting. There's not a lot of burst, and the list has gone through so many iterations over the years. I'm so tempted to play like a Renathal version because there's so many cards that I want to include, but I think they just weren't that needed. It was weird because I felt weird when we cut I don't remember the name anymore. That was the 4 cost that made a copy of itself, right?
Yeah.
And like we cut that because it's not good enough anymore. And then we started cutting Cloud Prince. Like what in the world is happening? And of course, Orion is very much a win more card. The greedy player in me likes it, but it's not needed. And it was just kind of crazy. And the game is like, I think at this point is just all about denying your opponent stuff. Like you build a board and then you just don't let them do anything. Because every time they play something, it gets blown up or countered or whatever. And then you just draw a bunch of cards. So, and I couldn't tell you how many games I had where I was dropping like Cabal Lackey with Rig Fair Game on turn 1. It was just so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
It's
a
like,
dream.
It's name a more iconic duo. I'll wait.
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like the list wants to like the disruption has gotten so good that you don't need the burst anymore. You just stop your opponent from having fun and you drop like I don't know, like 20/20 in stats and you're good to go.
I lost I lost a lot to Even Shaman. Like you have to kind of draw the nuts early or you save your flak mages with 0 cost secrets and stuff. But like, it's so hard because they get the board back so quickly, or the healing totems. Like that's a hard matchup for me. The funny thing is, like, I faced off against a handful of people playing Quest Mage, and I'd played so much of it that I knew how to beat it. And so, I mean, it was great. Like you pop the block at 1 and then you play an explosive runes and just win, and it doesn't matter how many turns you take.
Just win, forehead.
It had.
All right.
Waiting for we never got the armor vendor tech. Like we never got like the last like degenerate like twist of the knife where they start teching in armor vendor just so that like if you're playing against let's say like Copper Hunter for a while, Copper Hunter versus Quest Mage was a big matchup. We were waiting for somebody to play armor vendor so that explosive trap wasn't lethal, and then it was like that would be over, right? That would be done. So, but nobody, not even the CN got in on it and did it. And I wasn't going to say anything. So
yeah, right. Well, you saw Ixar's tweet, right? Buff Secret Mage. So
Rage.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's like tier 4 now with the nerfs, which we'll get to later. Like it's not in a good spot. Like I think you picked the right time to play it and to knock it in. I know Reddit was like, well, I guess Secret Mage is just gonna run wild now. But like we'll talk about it. But like it turns out when you take 2 major food sources for a deck, it gets worse.
Yeah, that I will say I totally agree with that, because like I sailed to like Diamond 5, Diamond 4. And then the nerfs hit, and then It's just not nearly as strong, and there's a lot of greedy decks. Like people switched off to like the more greedy stuff, and I think I'm gonna have to either. Like, I'm really wanting to play shorter games, so probably like either Pirate Rogue or maybe something more controlly like Shutterwalk Shaman or whatever. It could work. I don't know. I'm a little stuck at the moment, but we'll get there and we can discuss that. But let's talk about your guys' weeks, because you guys had some great things happen. In fact, so I'll pass it over to Schmoopie first. So tell us about your week for a minute here.
Speaking of short games.
Yeah, let's I mean, I don't know if anybody actually interacts with Hearthstone the way that I interact with Hearthstone, because in the same month I played at Bronze 4 MMR achievement hunting the 16th and the 17th. I dug myself out of that with Death Knight decks up to like 3K legend, which was getting me to like low legend. And then I basically spammed Even Shaman for 3 days and got into the top 300. So like the same month that I was playing in Bronze 5 MMR, I also got to a place where I could camp for 11x. And eventually ended up finishing my achievements. I 100% of my achievements.
Oh, wow.
Since then, this month I had about like I'd set a goal that I was gonna get like 750 by the end of last month wins on Death Knight, and then have only like 250 left. That was like my goal setting out when the expansion happened. I had 985, so I punched it in this month. I got my 1K Demon Hunter, basically post Nerfs, Demon Hunter Death Knight, basically post Nerfs. Blood felt the best, because where I'm at, I know I previously posted that Reno Frost felt like the most well-rounded. We are not in a well-rounded meta right now. There's a lot of greed, and there's a lot of aggro, and people are still kind of figuring out combo. So something that was kind of more polarized actually felt better. Whereas, like, I'm not shocked that I know Sheep, you had a little bit of success with, not to usurp what you're going to end up talking about, but you had a little bit of success with Unholy DK. That seemed to be doing well for you. Blood ended up getting me there with 5 or 6 games, and like if I queued a Shutter Shaman, it was like, all right, we'll see if we get there. We probably won't. But the aggro stomping, there's a lot of aggro and there's a lot of greed, and it's like, it's funny because they're trying to figure out the mix right now. So I got my 1K Death Knight. That's done. I have the cool hero portrait. Nate's like, I can't imagine.
That's incredible.
I will say, though, for the rune system makes grinding the class so much easier than any other class, because you can vary your play so much. You can play Frost, which is a little bit more bursty. You can play Unholy, which is more board-based. You can play Blood, which is more control, or you can play some of these mixtures that are interesting. I find the even mixtures are very interesting, because especially the one Unholy double Blood hand buff style, that seems to do very, very well at low MMR. I got like shockingly well whenever I play it. It feels like a bad deck. I don't like how it feels, but statistically, whenever I'm tracking wins and losses, I'm winning like 70% of the time with a deck like that. Like, it loves seeing board braced aggro. So like I can kind of chop and change styles if I get bored of something and keep going, which made this really not all that bad of a grind. So that was my Death Knight adventures, and then I hit Day 1 Legend this month, which was a special kind of like little milestone for me, because it makes 11 months of Day 1 Legend. This time with Even Shaman, with 11x, 29 and 22, not to be toxic, a little bit of a low win rate for Wild, but like I had this weird, I hit my first boss fight, and then I lost it, and then I lost like the next 3 matches. And then I had 11x, so I won 3 games after that and hit Legend.
The 11 is so...
which was like, really, like, I thought about it. I was just like, didn't I just lose 4 in a row? How am I in Legend already? And I had to like go back and look at my game log to see what happened, which was funky. 2 of those times in those 11 months have been 11x. 9 of them have been 10. So I've done it the hard way most of the way. I'll probably try to get 11x this month, but I don't know if it's my meta. I don't know if I'll get there. I'll try drooling even shaman and see if I get there again. I know we're gonna talk decks later.
Oh no, I've got your list pulled up though.
Oh, cool, yeah. So like I basically looked at even shaman and said like, how can I have the most fun playing even shaman? And so I said, let me use 10% of our brains and add as much burst into the even shaman package as possible. And part of the logic behind this was Disco Lock, when it lived, did not like burst. Didn't like burst damage from hand, and they were tapping constantly, like they were digging constantly. If you could provide enough board pressure early and survive that first Cataclysm, you could burst them down. And that's actually how I won my boss battle. My boss battle was a Disco Lock who Cataclysm, they didn't Cataclysm the 2/5 taunt. So at 2 health, I got to swing face with my 3 attack weapon and crackle them down. And that was my boss fight. I went 4-3 against Disco.
Right in the face.
Which was,
Yeah.
for even shaman, supposed to be like a hopeless matchup. So I felt very confident about playing that matchup and how that went.
You put Wind Fury in here? Oh man, that's spicy.
Wind Fury
was running Wind Fury over Crackle for a while because Wind Fury had better stats than Crackle. So yeah, I had Wind Fury in there. What was spicy was having Crackle and Wind Fury, and not having more bodies to put on the board. But I figure, you know what? I'm going to lean on even Shaman's hero power. I'm going to say that we have plenty of board presence. We're always printing board presence. We don't need board presence. Let's just reach out and slap somebody. And that was my, and that's what I played up to 11x, and that's what I played to Legend, and it feels pretty good. I think I like this list a lot. There were times the Wind Fury definitely felt like a passenger, and there were times where like a Pirate Rogue left up on 11 attack Gigantotem because they couldn't do anything about it, and I won from Giga behind because there was no other out.
Well, when you've got a Giga Totem with Giga Wind Fury, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and like again,
good.
And Astalor's in here, right? Like it's like Astalor's back. I cut him initially when he got nerfed, and then I heard people say, "Yeah, he's all right."
You know what though? No, he's not bad. And every time I see Astalor come down, like I roll my eyes, I'm like, oh god.
Sweet validation.
The best time to play him, I feel like in Even Shaman, is to top deck him with 8 mana.
Yeah.
Because you get the benefit of both mana thirsts, and then it's not all that long until like you're gonna get the full value from him, or even in the mirror if you're both top decking and you're both hitting each other with wet noodles. Slamming out an 8/8 giant that deals 7 to the board and some to face is like it's kind of good.
It's impactful, that's for sure. Yeah.
Kind of good.
So yeah, so that was basically like what I did. I had like a crazy rush of achievements and things getting done, mostly because a lot of it was already done. But like I finished my achievement hunting the last couple days of the month in standard dumpster because Blizzard bots are amazing for achievement hunting. It's like putting in the cheat codes. It's like basic cards, demon hunter. Oh no, wait, it's a rogue. And like there's no coherent game plan and you're in no danger of dying. So if you build some kind of control-y deck and just grind out whatever achievement hunt you're going to do. I mean, it requires hitting Legend and Standard and then losing a ton. But like getting my achievements done, hitting Legend, getting 1k DH. I also, DK, sorry, I keep doing that. And also getting level 300 on the Tavern Pass, so I know I'm on track to max out this bad boy. And to top it off, my buddy hit Legend yesterday, Neon Heron, and he told me he's been keeping track of how many months we've hit Legend, and he informs me that it's been officially 3 years that we've been hitting Wild Legend consistently. So it's funny, a bunch of milestones kind of all coming together. It's basically ever since they changed the track, well, the pyramid list, right? Like how they changed ladder fundamentally made it just so much more.
It's made it a lot better.
Accessible. Yeah.
It made it psychologically less damaging to attempt, right? Like it just from a feels good perspective. I don't know if it was necessarily got all that much easier, but it felt like it got all that much easier.
it's just the time investment is not so much. Like I did it before the ladder change, and it took so much time, and the stress level was so high because you didn't have these bonus stars. And like this is way before like ranked floors and stuff, and it was awful. That climb was terrible. And so now it's like it's doable monthly. When I did it the first time, I was like, all right, cool. I did it. I got the card back. I'm done. And but is this something I'm going to do every month? Like, no way. It's too much time and too much like stress. And then, you know, I the achievement's done. Like, what's the difference between hitting Diamond 5 and Legend? At that point, when they were giving out golden cards at the end of the month, was like one card. And it was like, forget it. I hit D5 and I get a golden epic. Like, cool. That's awesome. I'll take it. And so I did it back then, and I think it wasn't until they switched the ladder system that I've hit every single month since. And just because it's not as much of a grind, it's not too bad. By the way, for anybody who's like, we're posting the deck codes in chat here in Twitch, but if you're listening to this on an audio podcast or you're watching on YouTube, click the link for the show notes. It'll be in the description, and we've got like a Google Doc that's shared with everyone, and you can copy and paste the deck codes and look at all the links and pictures and stuff. So if you like, we're not going to go card for card through the lists, but if you want to check them out, the pictures and the links and the deck codes and all that are in the show notes.
In the slots, in case people are just like, you know, they're listening along and they haven't had the chance to get in there. In the slots that you normally have, like Mana Panthara or like the Elemental, the 3/2 Elemental, the Prince of Windchill, or like Cage Match Custodian. I don't run any of those like draw cards. I just run Crackles, and I run Wind Fury, and I run Astalor. I don't have a Connie in the list, but yeah, that's those basically like those four to six slots are kind of like where the flex is, and I've just piled burn into that, being like, okay, let's just go get it. And Nate, it's funny, you say this is an uncomfortable matchup as a Secret Mage. I always feel like this is an uncomfortable matchup as an Even Shaman, because I want to deny Rigged Fair Game as soon as possible. And so I will do funny things like keep a totem buff and buff one totem to hit face if I can manage it. And then hopefully you draw Chisel. If you don't draw Chisel against Secret Mage to deny Rigged Fair Game, the matchup gets much harder. If you don't drop Stonewright and make it so that every totem can hit face and deny Rigged Fair Game, the matchup gets so much harder. So like, it's funny you were saying that it's just either way, it's like a struggle, and neither player's happy, and it's just a cursed matchup.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I felt like with the Secret Mage, I've got some AoE, but it's all mana dependent, and like you want to be cheating out these secrets, but like I found myself trying to like dump hand every turn to like just get stuff out. I want my cards on the board. I want my secrets active. And then if you can proc them all, like, or I could find myself, like I can clear 2 health, no problem. But when you get above that 2 health threshold, it gets really hard. And when you've got like 1 healing totem is one thing, but if you've got 2 healing totems, it's like impossible. Like I got to do a full clear, otherwise I'm in trouble. And it wasn't worth it to do a partial clear, because then everything just heals back up. Mm-hmm. But if you sit on cards, then you're just going to die because they keep hitting you in the face. And so it was like, you want to just deny stuff. And then I'd have people, they'd be like testing out, they'd be trying to test secrets with playing throwaway cards like Wind Fury or whatever it is. Like it's a good card that you can use to win, but like, you don't care about it so much, right? If I'm just trying to eat a secret.
Eater of Secrets is not a great card to play.
By the way, I ran into at least 2 nerds playing Eater of Secrets this month. I'm sorry if it was you, but I hate that card. And I won both of those matchups. Like it ate my secrets and then I killed them. And so it was like, okay, don't put bad cards in your deck, please.
I've seen Reddit copy pasta this week that's just like, objective should be nerfed or banned or whatever because it directly stops Eater of Secrets. And I'm like, this is a perfect reason not to run Eater of Secrets. And I honestly, okay, this is a controversial opinion. This is Schmoopy hot take. I always preferred Horde Operative because yes, your opponents know what secrets they have to play around, but as a secret mage, having to then play through the gauntlet of garbage that you've set up for your opponent to get around is a really awkward position. And like it requires, it's like 3 mana. I've stolen X amount of mana of value from you. And now my deck can do whatever it wants to do. You, on the other hand, have to run the gauntlet of whatever crap you have put up. And now, like, sometimes your hand as a secret mage is equipped where you can do that, but often it's not. Like, you've only got 2 or 3 cards in hand, and, like, it's tough to kind of play through it. But, like, even that's a garbage tech card. Like if you're gonna run garbage tech cards, though, like, that's, like, I saw, like, Chinese lists preferred that for a while, which I kind of liked. Huh. For that reason, I liked using that in like a Thief Priest back in the day when it first came out in the Barons, because it was just kind of like, I got your ice block now.
That's funny.
How about you play around your ice block, nerd?
I will say the one thing that, like, the one change that I would consider making would be, well, and I don't even know. Some of these cards require an unprocced secret to trigger your valet or your like chatty bartender, and or even reducing contract conjurer, right? And so all of these secrets, like, they proc every turn pretty much. And so I'm tempted to throw in 1 ice block just to have something that won't proc. But I don't know what I'd cut, right?
You're thinking like White Delight. You'd probably cut an Explosive Runes. Because there's some you've already got 2 objections. Explosive Runes gets a little bit worse with 2 objections.
Well,
objection is always procs first, and it's objectively better.
And I objection,
especially with the nerfs, which we'll talk about in a bit, with Quest Mage not being in the a force in the meta
between
anymore.
That and Pillager. Now I know people there's some like really big huffing of copium going on, but like the new Pillager is bad. Like, it's really bad. So but I think that really that's what Explosive Runes was for, right? It was the bad matchups, your Quest Mage and Pillager Rogue, which are not an issue anymore. So maybe that could go. I felt like I was top decking a lot, like, because you just are dumping hand all the time. But I liked it because I was winning on turn 5. It felt like an aggro deck. It was great. And then I'd have people that would just concede. I got so much of that on my Legend climb. Like, people would, like, I'd turn 1, Cabalaki Secret, concede. It was like, okay. Yeah, no,
I would call it an aggro deck now. Like, it's a different deck than like when you guys came. My first episode on here, it feels completely different. I actually don't necessarily enjoy playing it because it feels so different.
It's gone through so many iterations because we've seen it be super bursty before with, like, gosh, it used to run Bran, right? Bran into Cloud Prince or whatever. Like, yeah. And then we decided, no, we got to go board based, and we were running the one that makes water elementals, whatever that's called, and just going super wide with it. And now it's like, nah, it's just, let's just like deny everything and just go super aggro. Yeah. So it's been interesting. And once the nerfs hit, I feel like the meta really shifted, and it's still a little bit unsettled. And this hasn't been working out quite so well for me since then, but like, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, let's talk about Sheep's week, because there were some pretty awesome accomplishments here as well. And then we can talk about the nerfs. So,
oh, shucks. Well, I was also on the Death Knight wins milestone train. So not quite the 1,000 win achievement that Schmoopy got, but I hit the 500 Death Knight win achievement.
Nice.
Yeah, buddy. So, got the golden hero power, which is great. I'm actually to 582 Death Knight wins now. So
holy cow.
Making my way towar's the 1K.
Unholy cow.
The button's more important than the 1K, let's be honest. The button, 1K is kind of mid. It's not Demon Hunter 1K, right? Like Demon Hunter
Yeah.
1K is like one of the all-time greatest skins they've ever made, especially for a 1K. The Death Knight 1K, it's all right. Like it's nice right now because you have it, other people don't, but the button's the important thing. That's awesome, man.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and I can play the Corgi Death Knight with the Golden Hero power. Oh, glorious.
Yes.
So really happy about that. Mostly did that, not mostly, did a lot of climbing and kind of finished it off with my new even Unholy Death Knight list, which runs the newly nerfed Construct Quarter
Right.
as well.
So what are these screenshots here that you sent over?
Oh, so that is just the Golden Hero power and the golden fragile ghoul as well.
Oh, it's beautiful. And yeah, Construct Quarter actually getting nerfed made it like slot right into this really nicely. So
It really did. So I took my I called it F and Stefan. So it's like even Steven, but PHs instead of V's in both.
that's
So
funny.
I took my list and I took out the 2/3 undeads that if an undead died, then it
Bone Flinger.
bone flinger.
That was really tough. That's a 3-mana card. That was always really tough to proc.
Yeah. So I took that out and slotted the construct quarters in and just sailed to legend. So hit legend yesterday. So if we had actually been recording on Friday I lost to final boss and fell down to D3. And then Saturday I actually progressed back up and got there. My final boss was actually an unfavorable matchup. So I was playing against an unholy Raza priest, and on turn 5, I hero powered and thought I grabbed my construct quarter, which was right next to my grave strength. And I accidentally grabbed my grave strength. So on turn 5,
Whoopsie.
and that was against my opponent had Najak Hexened my Murlocula, which was fully invoked. And so I was going to get my Murlocula back. Well, I didn't get my Murlocula back. So my opponent, Zola the Gorgoned the Murlocula and Seance the Murlocula and had a huge board. This was my second final boss. I actually won that game.
How?
I don't know. Marrowguard, Lord Marrowgar.
Marrowguard, I was going to say
yeah.
that you're only out, right?
But I only needed Marrowguard to deal 6 damage at the very end of it. Like I was right there, and that was after a Reno. That was after Shadow Reaper Anduin. I don't remember if they played. I think they did. Played Raza as well. Like,
Wow. Look at this. So the screenshot here has your legend number on it, right? But it shows your board damage on here, 47.
that was Marrowgar. Yep. I only needed 6 damage to stick, and they had already played Shadow Reaper Anduin. I think they had already played the 4-mana mass Shadow Word Death as well. Shadow Word Ruin. That's the word. I think they had already played that too. So like, yeah, it's just the constant pressure, just continuously going. So the construct quarter, yeah, well, we'll get there whenever we're talking about the nerfs, but like low key, like strong buff for
Well, yeah,
even
especially
DK,
with
for
a
sure.
with a 1-mana hero power. Like,
Oh, yeah.
wow. Yeah, this is good.
And just print out those 4 or 5 rushers. Just glorious.
Yeah.
Especially if you can like get 2 of them on board and they're alternating. So it's like print a rusher 4/5, print a 4/5, print a 4/5, print a 4/5, and you just glorious. Love it.
I
Even
thought
Steven.
it was going to be too slow. I thought it was like bait a little bit, and I think from what I've seen playing against other people playing the card, it looks fine in that list, and it looks like bait in other lists, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think you're right. Unholy really likes corpses. Absolutely loves corpses. Even being able to have the 1-mana hero power to just print those 4/5s, also really strong. it's an aggro list, but it's kind of mid-rangey. So it does really well against Pirate Rogue, for example, which is one of the reasons why I did so well, because I'm building my board while denying their board, with things like the Plague Strike and the Verkul Necrolite and the Construct Quarter that we were talking about. And then whenever you get a Murlocula or two down for free, then you're like controlling their board, healing your face, in the case of Murlocula, while developing your own board. And then once you've got your board, anytime you get that Grave Strength, it can just be lethal like that, like out of nowhere. So it's definitely still an aggro deck, but against other aggro decks, like you can deny them so much while building up your own board, that it ends up doing really well. I really liked the fact that I didn't see as much Secret Mage after the nerfs, because that was always really tough. Objection is hard to deal with, and the one that denies your spell. Wow.
Counterspell?
That's the one. Thank you. The one that counters your spell. That one. Like, oh, hey, I'm trying to deal with your board with my spells. Nope. Trying to play my own minions to like delete your board. Nope. So I was really glad, in my particular pocket meta, that did not see a whole lot of those, because that was a really tough matchup. Whereas the other aggro, Pirate Rogue, I'm not going to say a free win, but heavily favored there. And even Shaman is kind of a coin flip. It's just who can attain and maintain their own board the best. Sometimes they get there, sometimes we get there. So it's I was really glad to see those go. School Teacher and Necrotic Mortician right now are also really strong because the pool is so small. As we get more cards, those will definitely rotate out of the list. But right now our pool is so small that it's pretty consistent that whenever you're discovering something from those, that you can find something good to play. But as we get more cards, then those will be less needed as well, because we'll have more good cards to put in their spot, right? And then, of course, Hero Power 1, Bone Digger Geist on 2. We've got our Totem Golem. And then either like Hero Power into like Necromancer on 3, or Hero Power into Mana Feeder Panthara, or like so many different things. Like even if you have no corpses, if you Hero Power before you play the Necromancer, I know I already mentioned this in a previous episode, but if you Hero Power first and then play the Necromancer, then your Fragile Ghoul will die first, and then it'll check to see if you have a corpse. So that always feels not like cheating, but like you feel really clever every time that happens.
Nice.
I was gonna ask, do you ever find that minion is working against at like cross purposes with your deck because it's taking corpses away from the grave strength counter? Because like that's always been like, I would almost not term even like, and this is annoying because we can like debate labels forever. I'd almost call it even DK like unholy even DK like a mid-range deck, just because like you can win on turn 5, but it's not really guaranteed, only because it's so hard to get grave strength juiced so early, right? Because in part because like your best minion is kind of working at cross purposes to that.
Yeah, so it denies the early burst. However, most of the time printing out those 1/3 taunts is more advantageous than like just ending the game that quick. Especially in, being able to protect my board so that my board can go face more consistently. There were some times, but it was pretty infrequent, where it's like, oh, if I had Grave Strength activated now, then I would win, but I don't because of that Necromancer. It happened like 2 or 3 times total. And
you almost toss it versus Druid. Like this is where like you start talking about like like refining your mulligan, right? Like do you almost toss it versus Druid for that kind of reason, right? Probably.
I think so. And honestly, I think Druid is the only one that I would keep Astalor in. Other than that, I'm tossing Astalor.
Are you playing him on 2? Are you just like getting the body, getting it rolling? Yeah.
And if I have another thing to play on to, like particularly the Bone Digger Geist, then I'm doing that instead. But if I don't have it, I'm not holding on to it for value. Like I'm dropping it onto I'm dropping the
dropping it on
5/5 on
five.
5.
Maybe wait for 10 for the big burst, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. hmm So it has some different play patterns depending on what you're playing against, but it's versatile in that way as well, which I really like. I did not expect Murlocula to be a keep quite as much as it was, but it totally is. Like especially against Rogue. Against Rogue, I'm keeping Murlocula because on one, I'm getting, there's one infuse. On two, odds are I'm like playing a Plague Strike, right? And then there's a second one. Then on three, if I have another Plague Strike or like a Verkul Necrolite, then odds are I'm playing Murlocula on three just for free. Super strong, especially whenever you're healing yourself and continuing to control the board. Did not expect to keep Murlocula, but it feels really good. I don't know stats, but at the very least for feeling, it feels right against aggro matchups for sure.
I know early on when Robobson was having success with the list, he said that Murlocula was a keep. You always keep Murlocula. For that very reason, it's like it's a 4-mana card that never costs 4. And again, the free spider tank with lifesteal is like brutal for some decks. It's absolutely brutal. You got to sink a swordfish swing into it, and now you're talking about like he healed you for 7.
Yeah.
Because of the lifesteal, right?
And the really close matchup against Even Shaman almost like swings straight up in your favor if you're dropping that free 3/4 with lifesteal. It's incredible. That's incredible.
Nice. I'll have to try it too. The list looks super fun.
Sylvanas the Accused also did not expect that to like carry so hard, but against druids, they put their 5/10 up. They think they're safe. Boom, it's mine. I have lethal.
That's what I love.
Dead, and I have lethal.
Yeah, I like the utility of Sylvanas, where some of the cards like that are mana thirst or whatever there are, like you have to or infused. You have to hold them to get value. And Sylvanas, like it doesn't really matter. Like it's nice if you can steal the card, but like most often we don't really care. It's like a big taunt that we don't have to now smash all our stuff into. We just nuke it and go phase. I thought Sylvanas was really good.
It is really nice in the mirror whenever it's fully infused because they have rushers, 4 or 5 rushers in particular. Boom, I stole your rusher, and then I'm not only denying that one, but I'm also further controlling your board. But like you said, if you're holding on to it to be fully infused, you're probably doing it wrong. But it's a 6-mana card, so odds are you're getting it infused anyway because you have so many other cheap things and different ways to control the board. And your general idea is to like play dumb, stupid like short, like small, like just wide minions that die so easily that she gets infused super easy. Despite it being like infused 7, like in other decks that feels nigh insurmountable. In this deck, it feels like if it's in hand for like 2 turns, it's infused.
Gross! Wow.
Oh
She's
yeah,
looked really good. She's looked really good.
Yeah.
Way better than I would have expected. I saw her in some early lists. So I'm like, this is all right. And then like she steals your thing from below, and you're like, no.
Wow.
I stole a Wind Fury Gigantotem and felt great.
Oh, gross. That's nasty.
That's incredible.
I do have an update from Hydra. Hydra's not here, but he did leave us a note, so I'm just gonna read it. I know he was playing a lot earlier this week and having a hard time on mobile, trying to get Hearthstone installed on his tablet and on his phone and just having it crash all the time. And so that's the context for this, right? So he says, so I've mentioned my mobile issues. I reinstalled Hearthstone again on the iPad, and it's actually going quite well. I played 3 nights in a row for 2 or 3 hour sessions until it crashed, and it only crashed when I decided to brag about how well it was running.
Irony.
I had not touched EU at all in February until 2 nights before the season ended, so I had a rush with 10x from bronze. From bronze 10, made it to D5 and didn't bother trying after that, and left it up to the Hearthstone gods to see if I was lucky enough to keep 10x. I was. That's good. He says, I played Button Shaman like SchmoopieDaddy, but it was an old list that I just had sitting around. I switched to SchmoopieDaddy's version and it did fine with that as well. I felt like I had burn sitting in my hand. Sometimes I did not want to use it quite yet. Other games, the burn came in super clutch. Nothing like 2 crackles for lethal with a high roll. I'm undecided on which build I prefer. So there you go.
When you play 2 crackles for lethal with a high roll, you cackle. You got that right, Murlocula.
If you don't know what that is, that's the battle cry for Murlocula. It's so bad.
He has so many different options. That is all of them back to back to back to back.
Sorry. Okay. Well, anyways, this was a pretty heavy news week. So
These are things I miss when I don't have my sound on. I play on mute on my phone so often.
You have no idea. Yeah, I usually play on mute as well. And then you play with sound on, and you're like, "What? Wait, what was that?" You got Murgled? Yeah, here you go. Anyways, there was a lot of news this week, so let's talk about it.
Welcome to the news. The news is so good.
All right.
And how?
Yeah. Okay. So this was a crazy news week here. So apparently the Wild Summit that we were all speculating about, right? Actually like had an impact much earlier than anticipated. And so we got like, I saw the tweet and the whole community was grumbling and like, it was like all right, like, you know, put your money where your mouth is, right? Like prove it. And then they dropped this. I couldn't even believe it. So
and then they did put their money where their mouth is.
I was quite surprised. And so there's one standard Nerf that kind of is a little bit of a buff, like we talked about earlier. So the first card that they changed was Construct Quarter. So previously it was so this is the Death Knight location. Destroy a friendly minion and summon a 4/5 undead with rush to replace it. Previously it was 3 mana, now it is 4 mana. And so now it slots right into even Unholy Death Knight. The dev comment here says, overall, this is a little bit of a lighter patch for standard. We just had a big infusion of cards with the mini set, so this patch is just looking to address 2 major outliers after that card infusion. We're excited to see where the mini set lands after these adjustments. But this did impact Wild, so I wanted to address it.
And the dev comment specific to Construct Quarter was that Frost Death Knight is the best deck in standard after the mini set, and Construct Quarter is a standout card in that deck and in other Death Knight decks. This change is both an acknowledgement of the strongest deck in the format and the strongest card in that deck. So this is a Wild podcast. If you are unaware, in Frost Death Knight, people were running the eggs. Like there were a whole lot, though pretty much the entire deck was built around Construct Quarter and being able to leverage those printing tons of 4/5 undeads with rush. And it was great. So this kind of nudged it, and obviously for us,
and it was great.
It was. I got a lot of Death Knight wins.
It was 70% of the meta. It was awesome.
It was definitely too strong, and I'm glad that it was nerfed, but it was great to get some DK wins. I think I mentioned on last week's show that I was up, like, oscillating between like 1K legend in standard and like 6K legend in standard, like back and forth, because it was just like a coin flip against other Frosty Ks on who got their Construct Quarters out first and who had the best things. So obviously this is a Wild podcast, so the implication for Wild is now we can play that in even Death Knight decks, and now that's great.
Hey, there we go. Here's the other card that is for standard. It was nerfed for standard, but it does have an impact on Wild as well. is the Goldshire Knoll. It previously was 10 mana, now is 11 mana. So here's the dev comment. Before the rise of Frost Death Knight, Evolved Shaman was the biggest outlier in the format. This change is to keep Evolved Shaman in line after the adjustment to Construct Quarter. Goldshire Knoll is an important enabler for the deck's bad play patterns. And this makes those play patterns slower and less powerful while still allowing Evolved Shaman to play with the exciting new cards they got in the mini set. So what this was, like, you played it for super cheap and then evolved it into a 10 drop.
Chattius.
Like, yeah.
Neptulon.
We got a lot of Neptulons and stuff like it. Was
Neptulon wasn't supposed to be in the pool, but Neptulon was in the pool.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah, with the new Discover and Evolve, it was bad.
Yeah. So, but the bummer, and Evolved Shaman is such a pile of cards that, like, I don't.
Nate hates Evolved Shaman with a burning passion.
Oh, dude. Well, it's just like I don't mind losing to skill, and I don't mind losing, but like losing to bad RNG doesn't feel super good, and like, yes, I might. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Anyways, and
Goldshire Knoll too, like they kind of mentioned in the dev comment here, just exacerbated those really toxic play patterns, like super bad, because the highest kept win rate cards in the deck were things like Schooling, not to play the 1/1s, but to just discount the Knoll to get it out quicker.
yeah.
Like, that's bad. Like,
yeah, it makes sense why they touched this card. This card, though, is probably going to get the Dino Tamer Bran treatment, right? Like, we had Dino Tamer Bran at 8 mana for like 3.5 weeks. They rotated him and they reverted him right back. So, like, I know there's a lot of it's funny. I'm in some circles where there's like Warlock mains who are QQing about even Warlock, and like I can't do Null Bob. It's not going to be for long. This is like an easy shoe-in revert. From my perspective, seeing you guys nod your heads, I think you agree with me. It's not going to be long. Try to entertain yourself with something else. Even Warlock will be back, and he'll be back with a vengeance.
Yeah. Null wasn't a toxic play pattern here because we weren't doing those same kind of evolved shenanigans that they were. So yep. I think you're right, Schmoopie. It's an easy nerf reversion come rotation time, which should be soon.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and that's the only reason I really wanted to bring it up, is that it was seeing some play in even Warlock, which doesn't see very much play, but it's a deck, right?
It might now in this meta, it might.
Yeah.
But it's missing Null, so it won't. People won't play it. People won't try it. I'll probably play with OG Cthulhu minions in it sometime in the dumpster. It's probably an okay deck, just because it has so many clears. But like missing Null hurts a lot.
Yeah. Well, here's the wild nerfs that everybody has been complaining about for ages. Like, and I couldn't believe that this even happened. So that's incredible.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I can't. So, all right. Gray Sage Parrot got hit. So adios to Quest Mage for good this time, I think. So here's the dev comment. For Wild, we've been discussing potential updates to the mode. I'm a little bit scared for what that means. But anyways, in this patch, we're making changes to help curb some of the mode's negative play experiences. We don't view these changes as exhaustive, but we are working on some more long-term updates that we're excited to share once they're more solidified. God, that makes me so nervous. Anyways, so Gray Sage Parrot, they just changed the battle cry. So this is the 6-mana 4/5 beast that said, battle cry, repeat the last spell you've cast that cost 5 or more. And so you could just play the quest reward for Open the Way Gates and just get infinite turns, right? Not infinite literally, but you play Great Sage Parrot and then you play it again and you play it with Bran and you play Potion to get 1/1 copies of it and you just go. And
the Northshire Farmer degenerates used to tilt me so much when they'd shuffle in, like they'd brand North Star Farmers, so now there's 6 more parrots in their deck.
Oh, gross.
It's like really, bro. Really.
I liked the deck when it was like the Giants version, because at least you just died. Like they complete the quest, drop 4 Giants, take the next turn and kill you, and it was over. But like losing to infinite turns is like the worst. And you can't just quit because sometimes the RNG is not in their favor, or sometimes they screw up, or, you know, pray they lose connection and you can still pull it out. But like not very often, but enough that it's like worth to just sit there. But it's awful. Like the play experience was really bad. And so, you know, says the person who played it last month. But like,
Nate committed war crimes.
I am quite guilty for playing this card. So the new battle
That's an admission of guilt.
yes. Objection. I guess I got to see it on its way out. Anyway, so the new battle cry says repeat the last spell that you've cast that costs 6 or more. So the quest reward don't apply anymore. In fact, I believe this was the nerf that Martian Boo suggested, which it seems very eloquent, where they didn't kill the card, they just killed that deck. So you can still play this in standards like Big Spell Mage or whatever. Like you really want to play this on like your Yogg box or whatever the standard version is called, right?
The 9 mana one.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's so eloquent about this change too is that it only looks at the initial mana cost of the card. So further to your point of Big Spell Mage being unaffected, if you know the Yogg box is discounted to 0 and you play that, Grey Sage Parrot will still replay that Yogg box. So it's really an eloquent nerf, because if you somehow are able to, you know, get your quest reward increased in cost to cost 6 or more, that's unaffected by this too, because it only looks at the original mana cost of the card. So really eloquent nerf here. Big fan, huge fan.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. Like, wow, they did it. So there you go. The other one is they just killed the card. Right? SchmoopieDaddy, do you have anything to say about Grey Sage Parrot before we move on to the next one?
No, I have like greater thoughts about the impact of the nerfs as a whole, but no, like this is good. I was just gonna echo what Sheep said. This like what's cute about this change is it actually doesn't impact standard Big Spell Mage at all, because they don't really play 5 mana spells. They play a 7 mana spell or like an 8 mana spell sometimes. I guess not a 7 mana spell anymore. A 9 mana spell and a 10 mana spell. So like this, literally, you're changing a standard card for wild, but it doesn't matter. The only deck that cares about it is the 5 mana like arcane whatever. Spooky Mage runs Deathborn, but that's 6 mana. Like this helps wild tremendously while not impacting standard whatsoever. Perfect. I'm done.
Yep. Yeah, so here we go. You notice how they like to nerf the commons, right? Like you can get your 40 dust back.
I think that's a myth. They don't think about dust whatsoever, I think, when they do some balance patches. It just happens to be that like you print more commons and rares than you do epics and whatevers.
I'm joking.
But especially, no, that's a Reddit conspiracy theory that they won't give us this because there's too much. Blizzard says it's too much dust. I don't think that comes into. I really don't think that's we see that factored in.
Well,
we've seen it plenty of times where they've nerfed epics, right? They just nerfed the relic of whatever, the relic of draw and cheat mana, whatever it's called.
The next two are epics, coincidentally. I just laugh because a lot of times they'll hit like the core card, so you just get no refund at all. But I was just joking. That is definitely a good impression of Reddit, though. And so the next one is Spectral Pillager.
Hi, Reddit.
And they just nuked it. It's dead. So previously, it was 6 mana, combo deal damage equal to the number of cards you've played this turn. So they've
Now it
reduced.
gives you charge minions plus 1 attack.
Yeah.
Pretty much. They Warsaw Commander's Pillager for sure.
Big time. So, well, all right. So they reduced the mana cost by 1. So now it's 5 mana, 5/5, but it can no longer target face. It can only target minions. It deals 2 damage to a minion for each other card you've played this turn. But like, oh my gosh. So Reddit is on some serious like copium, right? Because there's apparently a way that you can still get the combo off if you do the damage to the minion that like when it takes damage, the damage goes to the
I'm just talking something. I meant to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it a 2 mana or a 1 mana 1/4?
1.
Okay.
1 mana.
It's a 1/4, but it deals your hero damage for any damage it takes, but you use Silas Darkmoon to give it to the opponent.
Yes.
And then you pillager that. And
Yes.
I've seen Gimme Lamp peddling this about in various circles.
I mean,
he's
I
a known combo degen and professional dustbaiter. This is it. He said, "Oh, it's a like 60% win rate, and it always kills on turn 6. Still better than Old Pillager. Still better than Old Pillager. I've got screenshots of a turn 3 lethal I got with Old Pillager. And the thing about Old Pillager was I don't think it was as hard to be good at Pillager Rogue as some people made it out to be. Good enough to be proficient with it, where you're like on a very base level, I'm effective with Pillager Rogue. Where the skill came in was, I've lost combo pieces, can I still find the lethal? Or, I have not drawn all my combo pieces, can I still find the lethal? And that's where you've got like your Roller Bees, your Maxi Bonds, your like next tier Pillager players are killing you consistently on turn 4, 5, and 6 without everything that they need normally, you would think, to do the basic combo. So,
I remember 2 instances very clearly. One, so last month, I think it was, you were trying to learn the deck, right? Or maybe it was the month before. And I played, I think it was a Dirty Rat or something. Like I Dirty Ratted, I was playing against a Pillager player and I Dirty Ratted their Scabs Cutter Butter, which is like, that's the combo enabler, right? Because he reduces so much. I Dirty Ratted it and I killed it. Like it was gone. And I lost on turn 4. And I was like, what? How? Like I saved the replay and I sent it to SchmoopieDaddy because I was like, how is this even possible? I was so upset.
Old man yells at cloud.
Yes. But it's very skill intensive, and like I was almost more flabbergasted that I was like, how did you do that without that key piece? And there are really some players that can do that. Watching Maxibon, when we played in the listener series, there was like it was like the ultimate like Reno or whatever, where there's like
Mega Highlander. He had the Mega Highlander Pillager, and he was playing against Pigpen. We saw some funny stuff,
right? Yeah, so no duplicates, Pillager Rogue, minus all the good cards because you could only have one ofs, and you couldn't run them in other decks either. And he still pulled it out. And it was like, it's that meme of like the math going across the screen. This is what it was. And good players can make it work. It's kind of funny. The new combo is silly, but like, is it still good? Like, nah, I don't think so.
I thought they were going to turn Pillager to 7 and make it almost like an Ignite Mage nerf, where now it's like you're consistently pushing the combo back to turn 6, 7. Because Ignite Mage isn't like, you could say, okay, Ignite Mage is dead. Ignite Mage can still, as somebody who occasionally gets a fire spell quest and degenerates and plays Ignite Mage because I miss it, it can still like kill pretty consistently on turns, 5 if you're lucky, but mostly it's like 6, 7 is when you're popping off, which is, I think, right now probably the standard for combo. It's like very quietly, Ignite Mage is probably okay right now, especially if you're in a little greed pocket. Shh, let's not spread that too much. Don't listen to Schmoopie, he's crazy. But I think because it's Rogue and because they plan on further printing more mana sheet for Rogue, I think they just didn't want to deal with this anymore. I
Yeah.
think they looked at it's a long-term problem and they just said, all right, you know what, Spectral Pillager, you're going to go from a combo, I'm going to kill you card to a possibly pretty good tempo card. Like it's like taking out a minion. This is, if you look at it, this is like an infused Sylvanas for one less mana. Like this is like, okay, you play a couple cards for free because it's rogue, whatever. You kill a minion, you make a 5/5. Like somebody's going to use it that way someday. And
Well,
like
you can.
maybe we need to fix how we view it because it is so different from what it was that now its
Right.
utility has changed.
Well, you
But
throw it in Odd Rogue Copium, right? But Slizzle just hit Legend with Odd Rogue, right? It's the first time I've seen it in like 2 years, and Slizzle hit Legend with it this past month. So I mean,
Pyramid Head got up to 400 with it on EU with an odd road list, and I've seen it propagated since. Like, depending if you get Tour Guide down, like I think it's favored into Pirate Rogue personally because of the hero power, and it's better suited into even Shaman because of the hero power.
And I hit Legend with Odd Rogue in last June.
hey, there you go. All right. Well, this card, yeah. So there's one more. There's one more. So the last one up is Cataclysm. And the Mechathune players are crying right now. But here we go. Right. So it is now 5 mana. It used to be 4 mana. So it's a Warlock epic spell. Destroy all minions. Discard 2 cards. And yeah, wow, it's very different now, right? So not only they totally destroyed this one, right? So not only does it cost 1 additional mana, but you don't discard your whole hand anymore. You only discard 2 cards. So wow, like that's
Did they destroy it though?
Well, no, but
they destroyed the what Mad at Arms called just taking your deck and throwing at your opponent's face. Like
that is an excellent analogy. They did that part, but I almost wonder. So some people are like, okay, is Disco dead?
No,
is Disco really
no,
dead?
I've lost to it after this. It's
I don't
not.
think it is. I think you go back to like the board-based Tiny Knight goofy stuff. I'm not convinced this still isn't like awful in that deck. 1 copy, just because the effect is still strong. You're destroying everything on board while also discarding 2 cards. Like if you're not, I could see it being where it's just like I'm wiping out a board and then I'm also like this hits 2 of my board-based stuff, so now I'm printing board. That's strong. You still have a hand afterwards.
No, I don't think it's
like if they transform this might become a Reno Lock card now.
Yeah, no, I think that this is okay. Like it doesn't kill the archetype. In fact, I've lost to it after the nerf. I think the one I've seen, it's like a little bit more board based now. And when you're discarding things like the 2/5 taunts or the spider eggs or whatever, like it's fine. It's fine. They slowed it down. And you can't, because you're not discarding your entire hand, you can't just win on turn 4 anymore because you've discarded, 4 copies of the one that sends 6 damage to your face, right?
Soul Barrage. No, like
There
they.
you go.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. Like it's the first time I've seen them like address Warlock's inherent like long-term problem with Wild is that like the downsides are getting so much synergy that they're not downsides anymore. And so at some point, Warlock cracks in half because what used to be a disadvantage and was balanced to be a disadvantage is no longer a disadvantage. It's like one of the best cards in the deck. Cataclysm turned into the best card in Disco Lock, which is kind of absurd. I mean, maybe it's not technically right. You could say, well, it's Soul Barrage. Okay, fine. But the card that really, after Tome Tampering was banned, the card that stirred the drink was Cataclysm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is nutty.
That's a good assessment. So I want to talk about the impact to the meta, I think, but I want to read this tweet from Matt London first.
I think we should maybe talk about the meta first because I think this tweet may have some broader implications for the future of Wild.
Yeah, I think it does. You're right.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about the meta implications? I know Schmoopie in particular has some pretty big opinions here. I have some as well, but I want to start off with Schmoopie.
All right. So what I'm seeing in Legend already is I'm seeing an interesting stratification. I'm seeing like rank 200 and above I'm seeing things like Reno Priest. I'm seeing Shutterwalk Shaman. I'm seeing assorted druid combo decks, but also I know of players trying Dragon Druid, trying Reno Druid, trying some of the slower archetypes again, because I think with some of this fast combo and Disco Nuked, it's giving some breathing room to archetypes that we saw in the Renathal days and Nathria, and which was like kind of like a mini golden age in Wild, as far as like diversity
Yeah.
of format and things you could play, right? Um, so like I see that in the 200s, and well, but I'm at like kind of a funny spot in my MMR right now where like I'm queuing into that, but also I'm queuing into a hard band of aggro, which I think is like a bunch of kind of like lower MMR aggro players that have gotten to legend early and are now stagnating. So they're playing they're jamming even shaman all day. They're jamming pirate rogue all day. They're jamming aggro shadow priest all day. And it's funny, I'm like rolling dice as to like which I'm queuing into right now. I don't think that combo is dead because I've died to combo decks Mechathune Druid. I've died to this goofy Chinese list combo Druid deck that's like it takes the I saw Dane in as far as like Western decks go. Dane kind of came up with it where it's just like, okay, well, what if I empty my deck, togwaggle your deck, and then play Jailer both? And now you're forced to answer my invincible board state with whatever you have left in your hand, and most decks can't.
I played against that and I couldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've seen a Chinese streamer, I think, kind of like either had the same idea or took Dane's concept and innovated it, because I've played against it probably 5, 6, 7, 8 times now. I've seen it a bunch. So
Wow.
like it's a popular deck at, again, that kind of like mid legend stratification, which makes me think it might trickle down to like lower MMR combo heads. It's strong because it's strong into aggro because it's running Oaken summons, not unlike Daden's version. So like it's gaining a lot of armor, and then all of a sudden it's like using your board against you. Floop Skloop, Flipper Friends, get enough mana for Celestial Alignment, pop go, and then it's like all of a sudden as an aggro deck I'm looking at, 27 power. My opponent has Bolf and Jailer up. Neither of us have a deck. I died. So I think there's still like room for combo in the meta. But I think what's really tough is there's a schism right now amongst the Wild community as far as the implications of these nerfs. So top meta, like content creators and players loved them because, we had people taking breaks, we had people retiring from Wild, we had people just sick of metas in general. And now they're coming back with a little bit more enthusiasm. They're playing more fun stuff. They're having more fun. But the problems that are addressed in this nerf patch are mostly addressing high MMR problems as opposed to low MMR problems. And you've got people still upset about Big Priest. People still upset about Swordfish and Pirate Rogue. People still upset about like other issues lower down. And so like the Reddit take is just like, oh well, we nerfed a couple of tier 2 decks, and I guess Disco's a real deck, a tier 1 deck there, but a tier 4 deck in Pillager Rogue, and we left Big Priest alone. I guess we're gonna play Secret Mage now. Where you have this schism in the community where like the lower power to ladder really doesn't get this patch, and it doesn't impact their lives, and they're kind of upset about it. I think it would impact their lives more because like I've seen Pillager Rogues in gold and bronze and silver from new Chinese players coming over and starting new accounts. So it's like it's not like they haven't experienced it. They haven't experienced it on the scale that it was. And the other schism is the Chinese players. I know like Soda was like really upset about these nerfs because it felt like they deleted a couple of decks that people had spent dust on that were forced to start anew with, which I think was like, it's like, and his sentiment was basically, okay, yet another example of like Blizzard trying to milk us for more money, which, I don't know if that was necessarily the motivation, but I could imagine my account's been shut down. I'm forced to start into a new account. I've sunk dust into a deck, and now, the best card in the deck tells me that it gives my charge minions +1 attack. Like I can imagine being upset, especially if I'm on a budget. So there's like this I've seen memes of like Matt London's face posted over Jesus. So like I did, this is like, for some people this patch is like one of the best things since sliced bread, but it's not without its detractors, and there's a fair number of them, especially when you talk about the rank and file Hearthstone user in Wild, especially between like D5 and Legend.
It's me.
Well, and especially Spectral Pillager and Grey Sage Parrot. Those nerfs did just completely delete decks. Like we were talking about, Cataclysm wildly changed the deck, but it didn't delete it. Whereas the other two definitely did. Whale noises, a couple of decks being deleted that were problems in the meta. I'm not particularly bothered by that personally, but that perspective of, hey, I sunk dust into this. This was like the one deck that I could play. It makes sense that those people would be a little upset. Like you said, Schmoopie, I don't think that, by any stretch of the imagination, this is Blizzard saying like, hey, give us more money. I think this is, we want Blizzard to, and the community at large has been asking for Blizzard to, and Team 5 to be paying attention to our format and to be balancing it. This is what that looks like, right?
Yeah, especially I think like they said, look, we don't want to be doing regular balance updates for Wild. They've said it for years, and I don't see that sentiment changing. I stepped out and I'm back now. Did we start talking? Did we read Matt's tweet or no?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
Not yet, no.
Because he touches on that is all. And
Sorry, I monologued.
No, it's good. It's good. The meta for me after has been super greedy, like you said. I think it's slowed down where people are starting to play things that they couldn't get away with before. And now maybe they can. And it's like, oh, well, those are the
to yes, and my first after I lost to my first final boss, I fell down to Diamond 3, right? Playing against, yes, Big Priest, but like Shutterwalk Shaman, Big Shaman, like these more greedy decks that we weren't seeing before because combo being so quick that they couldn't play them so much. Raza Priest in particular before was just like MIA. It's back.
Yeah, I played a fair amount of it as well. And it's like, I don't know what build I want of it yet, but like you couldn't really play it knowing like it's just too slow, but I think you probably can now. It's interesting.
Yeah, Raza looks okay. Raza feels okay. I don't know. I've actually been having more success with like Dragon Druid and goofy stuff like that. As far as like the slower stuff that I wasn't able to get away with before. It feels a little bit more like Nathria right now, which is really interesting because when they functionally deleted Renathal to a certain extent in our format, it felt like they set the format backwards.
Yeah.
This patch feels like it pushed us forwards a little bit in evolution, which is like a funky little, like, I don't know, just like a feeling for me.
I'm glad that they took a lighter approach actually and didn't nerf like a ton of stuff because it would have been like too much of a shakeup maybe. It's interesting. So here's the tweet. I'm just going to read it and then we can keep talking. So today we made some, I'm reading his tweet now. So this is Matt London from the Hearthstone dev team. Today we made some balance adjustments to Wild. As mentioned in the patch notes, these changes are intended to curb some negative play experiences. Some of you may be asking why this combo and not this other combo. Evaluating the breadth of deck sin. Oh, this is just a typo. Okay. Evaluating the breadth of decks in Wild is a daunting task. For this round, we looked at consistency, the ability to interact with the combo, play frequency, win rate, and public sentiment. We're not committing to maintaining this policy in the future. We're trying this approach this round and seeing what effect it has on the meta and player sentiment. It's not our intention to kill anyone's pet deck, and we're not eager to engage in an endless game of whack-a-mole in Wild. Thanks again. See you on the ladder. And like, it's that last part that really made me, I guess, happy. Like, I know some people have said that they want like a curated format and that they don't intend Wild to really be that. But the negative play experiences where like the infinite turn combo, I think everyone was just sick of. And or can you interact with or disrupt this combo? Like, so especially the nerf to pair it makes total sense to me. It can just burn in a fiery flame forever. And what was a little bit worrying to me were some of the I think it was the dev comment from before that was like, oh, we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do with Wild. Let me just read it so I don't mess it up too bad. But where is it here? We don't see. Okay, so for Wild, we've been discussing potential updates to the mode. In this patch, we're making changes to help curb some of the mode's negative play experiences. We don't view these changes as exhaustive, but we're working on some. This is the part. It's right here. We're working on some more long-term updates that we're excited to share once they are more solidified. Like, oh God, no! What is this? Like it? Like if there's gonna rotate in sets or rotate out sets or do like whatever it is, like please don't mess with the format. Like
turn classic into that. If you're gonna do like a rotating format, like turn classic into that and at least make the bots work. Make the bots work hard. I'm joking for those not initiated. There has been a drastic increase in botting in classic to the point where I think the classic Legend ladder is larger than Wild. I'm pretty sure. It's not rivaling standard, but it's like we're talking like 7,000 people have hit Legend. Wow, 7,000 people have hit. Doc Delight played Classic this month, and I think he hit Legend day 1 or day 2, going I think 66-0.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Because he only queued into bots the entire time.
That's crazy.
And at first they were Blizzard bots because he was at such a low MMR. They were quickly giving him a match, and he was running with it. But then it turned into zoo bots and the Warlock zoo bots, and then he was just like slapping Warlock zoo bots around. And he I think he did like again, and he had like no multiplier, so he had to play a ton of games, but he didn't feel like playing Wild. So he played Classic, and it was something absurd like that where he went like 66-0. It was a 100% win rate, and it was incredibly high.
That's incredible.
So like if it's say what you want about Classic, it's probably kind of dead. People are farming it for experience. Turn it into a rotating format. Don't do that with us.
I'm still laughing that they didn't like add Naxxramas to Classic. It would have been the perfect time to do it. And but missed opportunity.
The mini set was called Return to Naxxramas. How about we do Return to Naxxramas in Classic?
Right? So these comments between the dev notes, which I think I don't know who writes those. I think Nick helps write them, but I don't really know. And Matt's tweet, they don't quite jive, right? Because Matt said, well, so looking at the dev comment again, right? This is the, we're working on some more long-term updates that we're excited to share once they're more solidified. Like, okay.
Maybe a Thurgle change.
And then what Matt's saying here
number
is, then he says, look, we're not trying to kill anyone's pet deck, and we're not eager to engage in an endless game of whack-a-mole in Wild, because here's what happens, right? There's a power outlier shift where you change these two combo decks, and like, okay, what is the meta shift to now? And there's always going to be the big bad, right? And what is it this time? And if we start killing off this card and that card, like at what point it goes back to like at what point do we all just playing vanilla minions, my 1/1 against your 1/1, and I don't want that. If there's power outliers, I know people will talk about Flurgle talks, but like I don't know. As a Shutterwalk enjoyer, I don't personally think it's that toxic, but I understand more war crimes, but I understand when people don't like that card. I I think it's tricky when you have a format that's supposed to be eternal where you can play all your cards and they're like, well, you can't play that one or that one or that one. So if the idea of like a rotating format is kind of crazy to me, that like now I couldn't play a bunch of my cards or whatever.
So I've listened to a lot of people who've played other card games like Magic. I've never really played Magic myself. Nothing against it, just didn't really get into it at the time. I digress. Whenever Magic had been around for however long, they had basically our version of Wild, but then they also had started inserting kind of iterative formats. So rather than deleting something like a Wild format, either iterating on a classic or adding an additional format that is that kind of more legacy format that rotates for, now we're Mean Streets of Gadgets in, whatever, kind of different rotating sets. That said, I don't think that deleting Wild is really the granted, obviously, I'm biased, right? I don't think deleting Wild is really the play, and I think that may be why the dev comment about working on more long-term updates that we're excited to share once they're more solidified doesn't quite jive with Matt London's tweet that we went through, because it might be two different things, whether that's updating Classic, whether that's an additional format, whether that's whatever change it is. I'm hoping that it's not just deleting Wild in favor of that as much as it is adding an additional format or iterating Classic in order to kind of achieve that. That's my speculation.
Yeah, I think it's just more nerfs to touch on the edges of Wild, maybe something to the Illuminate Shadow Essence interaction, which again, if you're going based on feels, they almost nerfed it once, and they talked about almost nerfing it once, right? Like they talked about almost hitting Shadow Essence once, but said that statistically it just wasn't good enough. It didn't rise to the same level. This was back when they were looking at like Big Rogue, right? They didn't rise to the level of competitiveness that required it to be whacked. I would think that that would be on a short list. I would think Flurkle Talks would be on a short list.
I think they just
Loop, Twig Sphere would be on a short list, but much past that, I mean, you got at least, as far as like from the top player meta perspective, that I have a little bit of an insight into. Not that I'm one of the top players, but like we drink at the same watering hole, and I kind of see their perspective. You got like half their wish list,
yeah,
in one shot in this patch.
Yeah, and I think I just want them to be able to do both. Like, if they want to nuke some cards, I think it's fine, but my question is, can you do it eloquently where it doesn't kill the deck? Like, say you Flurgle Talks, it feels bad, right? It definitely does. But can you keep the Shutterwalk? Like, how are they gonna have a board clear then in Shutterwalk Shaman?
They don't. They just play for more tempo in the beginning. Like, you just change the deck. You don't get a one-sided twisting nether for 3 mana.
Yeah. Well, it is really interesting because the
Maybe
new
you go all in on here you go. How about you go Twin Fin? You go all in on Rockgill. So now you have the same board swing, but this time you've got the Twin Fins that trade, and you play Rotgill, and nothing costs any mana because of Clownfish and because of Scargill, and now you're trading into a board, but also every minion that you trade dies and buffs the board that you're just built further. So like, I think you can. I don't think like Flurgle Talks kills Shutterwalk in the least. I wish it did, but it won't.
you have to go all in on the Murloc version. I think is
And I've played against a couple of those.
And how you build the deck.
I played against a couple of those on my climb, and I lost those games as the even DK. They were good decks, they also had Flurgle talks as part of that, right? So I mean, I think you're right, Schmoopy, that disrupting or delaying or removing the Flurgle talks combo doesn't kill Shutterwalk. It's just changes it, which
Mhm.
I think is kind of like the Cataclysm nerf, where it doesn't remove your pet deck, it just iterates it. And I think that's kind of the healthy take on it that I would like to see.
I do think that they could just delete Illuminate and the deck would still be disgusting.
You're not wrong.
Hey, you know what? I hit Legend with Big Priest plenty of times before this card even came out. So, like, we could do it. But getting Neptulon on turn 3 sucks. Like, a lot.
It does. I think everybody agrees to that point. Like I even remember, like for a brief moment in time, Tom Carter was playing Big Priest in like top 200, and queued into Corb a couple times and high rolled him, and like Corb's pinging him, and he's just like, Tom, man, like how do you always have it? And Tom's like, I'm sorry, dude, I'm watching Netflix, and like
I don't want to have to pay
he wasn't
attention.
even
Yeah.
paying attention to who he was queuing into. He was just like, he was half paying attention to Big Priest because like he's taking a brain break, and he's like watching Netflix, and like yeah, it's very funny.
I've done the exact same thing though, because it's a Druid deck. Like you don't have to really do much, and you high roll super hard, and you right off the bat, like as soon as your opponent sees you play Illuminate, they start sweating, and like I don't know. It's just you were talking about like even Shaman being like the Drooler deck, but like Big Priest is the Drooler deck too. If at least when I play it, like I've done the same thing, right? I want to watch some Netflix. Like, all right, I have to put on a deck that I don't have to think about too hard. There we go. And once they get down, like you get down your Blood of Cahoon, it's like impossible. Like all right, fine, you kill it, and then they bring it back, and it brings back more stuff. It's like
You gotta have over the top damage, yeah,
yeah,
and hope that you've chipped them down enough.
yeah.
But they still like sometimes they still run. I got hit with a renew the other day. I'm like, really?
Huh.
0 mana heal for 3 main decked. I'm like,
weird. I don't know. It's kind of strange. I actually did pretty poorly against them as the secret mage, because they run so few minions and you get them all out with the spells, and they run some of these crappy spells, the silence one that's tradable, right? And they just play it to proc your counter spell, and once they know like there's no counter spells left, you're just toast.
you're not playing Brand Cloud Prince. You don't have any burst.
There's
You're totally board based now. That matchup has flipped. It's Big Priest favored.
big time. Yeah. That was a hard one for me. So, I think if they do it correctly, like I'm okay with it. It's just like, please don't turn the format. Don't flip it on its head to the point that it's something new. Or if you want to make a separate like rotating format, like that'd be awesome, but do it in addition, so that we can still have our, like, I like playing degenerate decks, and it's fun having it, your pet deck that only changes like a little bit each time there's new cards. And I think that there's some fun in this. And if you really want like the standard experience where they're constantly doing balance updates, like play standard. I don't know. There's a happy medium here, but overall with these balance changes, like I'm pleased. I don't have any like, wow, cool. And I've been on the giving and the receiving end of all of these cards, so it is what it is. But I think it's healthy overall for the format, and I'm pleasantly surprised at how fast this all came about. It was really interesting because we saw that tweet and we talked about it last week for like 2 seconds. We're like, well, we'll devote an episode to it because it's a lot to talk about. And then before the next episode came out, like, oh, here's some balance changes. I was like, whoa, they actually did it. Because we were, we kind of drink from some of those same watering holes. And like the sentiment was like, well, we don't have a lot of faith that this is actually going to happen.
I thought nothing was going to happen. I thought it was going to be like a lip service. But I mean, listen, To be fair to them, they have, and I've said this before on the show, they've balanced wild better than standard this
Yeah.
calendar year.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The last three sets, they have by and large done a nice job balancing wild. Maybe because like you change one thing, and yeah, you're right. There's always going to be a big bad, but wild's a little bit more stable than standard.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot harder to delete decks because of the built-in synergy. There's a little bit more resiliency in archetypes where like if you take away a piece, you knock something down from tier 1 or S tier to like tier 2, tier 3. Whereas in standard, if you take a piece out, like the whole thing falls down. Like it becomes an unplayable pile of cards in some cases, right?
Yeah.
If they get the nerf wrong. Like I don't know how Construct Quarter is going down in standard right now, but I saw a lot of Death Knight when I tried to climb standard early in the month post nerfs, and it felt like it was all like just blood. And they're still running Construct Quarter. So like it's not a big deal, but like Frost Minion is no longer probably a thing. But like again, that's a deletion of a deck as opposed to like in Wild we're a little bit more resilient. And also I don't know. I have a little bit more faith because I feel like they're a little bit of they've been pretty spot on with the light touches. I don't have a whole lot of problem. Like I think you could probably debate whether they should have banned Tome or Barrage, but like long term Tome was probably smarter.
Yeah. Yeah, it caused more issues, I think, because it was enabling some pretty nutty things. So yeah, I would like to be able to play Blood Reaver Gul'dan again as well. I haven't been able to. Gosh, can you remember the last time you played like Blood Reaver Gul'dan or N'Zoth? When was the last time you played N'Zoth in a deck? Oh my gosh.
Ben was right.
I queued into the low life, who is known for playing Curse Warlock. He's a Chinese player, plays like a lot of Curse Warlock. I queued into the no life and the low life, excuse me, and he played an Expired Merchant, which got his Blood Reaver Gul'dan. I thought I was like winning, or like we were playing both slow decks, and I forget what I was playing, but like I was chewing through his stuff, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. I'm playing probably, I think it was my Questline Pirate Warrior, my control one, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. I'm chewing through his stuff. I'm chewing through his big demons. He played Expired Merchant, into which got his Blood Reaver Gul'dan. So I'm like, okay, there's two boards. I can deal with 2 boards. He played Shallow Grave so that he had 4. Then he played Augmented Elec, and then he played Pot Twist. So now
Another one.
So now that is 8 boards.
Another one.
Wow.
I left the game.
Yeah.
So like, to be fair, he did not get to play his Blood Reaver Gul'dan, but like this is the kind of greediness that like you might be able to get away with depending on where you're queuing and what you're queuing, and like, okay, maybe Diamond 5 to Legend, that's not going to get there. But if you're memeing at like a D10, or if you're like me and hit Legend, decide, okay, I'm going to go play in the dumpster for a while, and you play someplace where it's a little bit slower, yeah, I think you can get away with that. And maybe even at the top meta, ironically, where players don't play enough aggro to kind of regulate each other, you might be able to get away with that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I still have to hit Legend. Hopefully I'll do it before next week's show. I guess we'll see. So I'll try to have something to report back on next week to see what has developed in this Diamond 5 to Legend pocket anyhow. Before we close out, I did want to cover a couple quick things. Our good friends, especially Ridiculous Hat over at the Angry Chicken, had Cora on the show over the past week, and Imic did a summary of the interview. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I have the summary here. I thought I'd go over it real quick just because it was interesting to kind of look at the notes here. And so if you get the chance, go listen to their show. Great people, great podcast. But I wanted to cover this briefly for people who missed it. So I'm just going to read through Imic's notes here. And again, I'm just reading the notes from Imic. I have not listened to it myself. So hopefully they're correct. But here we go.
I've listened to it. Can confirm they are correct.
Oh, cool. All right, sweet. Thank you. Imic, I appreciate it, by the way, because my time has been spent trying to fix this like borked up computer. So anyways, let me jam through it. But you had a chance to listen to it. If there's anything that you want to touch on, please stop me. So Cora is one of the developers on Hearthstone. She used to do a lot of commentating, and I believe was one of the original members of Coin Concede, right?
Yep.
And is now part of the Hearthstone dev team. So here's the gist, and I'll just read these off of the notes. So Cora is back on the initial design team for expansions 26, 27, 28 this year. This is partially a confirmation that there won't be 4 expansions per year, as certain people were speculating on social media. And then a review of this past year. So Year of the Hydra. Sunken City was a successful first set of the year. Not much bad about it. Nathria. They knew Renathal would probably be too good and that they would nerf him at some point. They saw that Theotar and other neutral legendaries were a little bit too much. They knew Enraged Warrior was going to be kind of weak. And then March of the Lich King. They like how Death Knight ended up. They internally tried to make Rainbow Death Knight work, but decided to let the players explore each rune type first for this set before making Rainbow DK something more interesting down the line. They're really happy that people explored the possibilities and made a Rainbow DK list work to some degree. And then with Warrior, if balance changes could have brought Warrior up in line by now without causing problems like Nelly or From the Depths, they would have gone that direction. And then
for that one in particular, it sounds like subsequent sets are how they are going to try and balance Warrior in the future in Standard. So incoming Warrior overlords in Wild before too long.
I have a copy pasta for this. Let me find it.
All right. While you're looking for that, I do want to say, I do think that we saw Nathria. There was some very, very strong legendaries that all got hit. Renathal and Denathrius and Theotar, right? And they were kind of meta warping. Renathal changed Wild forever. And it's very strange when it got nerfed to the point where it's like, I don't really see it as a big upside anymore. Partially, I feel I have kind of mixed emotions on this, but when cards eventually rotate, I kind of want Renathal to go back to the 40 health. I don't know that they'll do that, but like...
As an aggro enjoyer, I agree.
You know what? Yeah, right? Because what happens is people playing the 40 card decks are just running more bad cards in their deck, right? And then as an aggro player, you can kind of feed on those decks sometimes. So I don't know. There's pros and cons with both.
No, Renathal to 40, I think it would be great.
I'd like it to go back
just
though.
to slow the format down some more. It's a handbrake on like what will eventually degenerate into. We're just slowing the process with Renathal.
Yeah. I am very happy with Death Knight. I feel like it's been fairly balanced, considering.
Yeah, it started off pretty weak. The changes that they've made to it, I feel like, have balanced it really well. Construct Quarter is a bit of a power outlier even after the nerf, especially for our format.
Mm-hmm.
But even that just kind of brings it up to part of the landscape rather than like being like the oppressive deck. So big agree.
Yeah.
Death Knight after the iterative changes, I think is a really big success in both the standard and wild formats.
Warrior.
It's worth noting that Construct Quarters was so good that the same 30 Frost Death Knight deck was actually looking really good in wild. The same 30 cards without any wild cards in it was looking like it was like a tier 2 low key tier 1 deck in some circles. Now it was really strong into like the board based aggro, and it was dying to quest Mage and Pillager, so it was like part of the furniture, like whatever that was, like, that kind of. I'm trying to remember musicals from my high school days. So like if you add a couple like Lotheb, or like I really wanted Terran Gorefiend in there,
especially because he's undead.
Especially because he's undead and because all the eggs, right? I think if you add a couple wild cards, that could have gotten even better and maybe been like a well-rounded, decent Death Knight deck. So it's funny, like we said, Construct Quarter was really a standard nerf. It actually kind of low-key did nerf a wild deck, strangely enough, and buff one, but like it did nerf.
Interesting.
True.
Wow, Control Warrior. When was the last time we even saw a Warrior deck in wild? I think we were talking like kind of jokingly last week. I could play.
I've got a neon tweet.
I should play. Like I'm so tempted to play like Button Warrior, like play Odd Warrior, but with the quest. so you have a win con.
I can whip up an even warrior for you, Nate.
No, I want Odd Warrior. Yeah, I want Odd Quest Warrior, like Quest Pirate Odd Warrior.
I have it on good authority from our good friend Seth that Odd Warrior is absolute trash right now.
I'm sure it is. Yeah, that's right. Dr. Evil hit Legend with Reno Warrior last month, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty funny. I know people have done good with it before, right? Labore Sangre doing crazy good within like
Yeah, I think Reno Warrior is the way to go. I see like the Quiet One and a couple of Chinese players playing Reno Warrior, and that looks like probably the way to go if you really want like a control warrior that makes some coherent sense.
Yeah.
That list looks like it has some legs. I'm sure it still gets outvalued by the value decks, but like it could be fun.
Oh, we can't start talking about Dead Man's Hand. We'll be here for the entire night. All right. All right, let me switch to part 2 of this tweet before we start.
They train themselves to be a cult.
All right, here's part 2, and again, thank you to Imic for putting these notes together. All right, so the new year is usually chosen based on the theme of all 3 sets of that year, but it's not always perfect, so players probably won't be able to tell what the expansions are going to be just based on the name. The 26th expansion is coming very soon, and it should be a quote-unquote banger with one of the most fun themes ever. I don't understand the context for that, but
Pandora?
Maybe. I don't know. Warrior. They have a year plan to reinforce warrior strength and give them some new options. They want to reinforce the control warrior archetype. Oh no. Because fatigue is almost not a thing anymore, they want to give warrior interesting new ways to win games while you still feel like you're playing a control warrior. Warrior is going to have some cool stuff in the core set, some fun tools that players remember. Oh, there you go. Put Justicar Trueheart into the core set, you cowards.
Do what you want.
And then, okay, patches, mini sets, timing. They have internally discussed about 4 sets per year, and some people are really in favor of it. Mini sets don't do the best job of creating big comeback moments for players, and they don't really introduce new archetypes, but they are an approachable way for the non-competitive or hyper-engaged players to get some new content. 4 sets per year would make the game more expensive. It would be better for patch timing, better for the meta. It would be more overwhelming for a lot of players, and also from a design perspective, they would have to change their schedule. They have some plans how to spice things up a little bit throughout the year and hopefully make mini sets more exciting and impactful. All right. Anything that we want to talk about or that we thought on here, aside from like, okay, they're planning on making Warrior come back, and I'm not surprised because when we look back at the like the HS replay stats for months and months and months, Warrior is constantly at the very, very, very bottom. So like, yeah, they have to get that win rate to not suck so much.
I couldn't find the copy paste I was looking for, but it was along the lines of like it was really irresponsible for the dev team to add Death Knight as a class when Warrior isn't even one yet.
That's funny.
I don't care who you are. That's funny.
That's funny.
But like what's funny is like they had Control Warrior. Control Warrior was good in Standard in Sunken City, and then they nuked it.
Well, everyone says they want to, like, this is the saying, right? Everyone says they want to control meta until they get one, and then everyone's miserable. But you know,
I mean, my takeaway, because like I read this kind of quickly the other day, getting ready for the show. And like my takeaway was like 4 sets. I feel like 4 sets would be too much on a couple fronts. I feel like it'd be too much for the devs because like they've had trouble balancing, and balance is tough, right? I'm not knocking them here. I'm not throwing them under the bus. Balance is tough. They've had a tough time balancing Standard with just like 3 sets.
yeah.
And so like doing 4 full sets, I feel like would at a breakneck pace. I don't know where they'd find time to do it. I feel like that'd be like really, really tough. And the content gets stale after 2 months. So like that was my other take on it.
So the argument that I've heard, and I don't agree with it, but the argument that I've heard is that you take out mini sets And so you're releasing the same number of cards. It's just a different cadence so that it keeps it fresh for longer and you don't like hit the sweet spot with balance and then immediately a mini set comes out or the mini set ends and the next expansion comes out. Again, I don't know that I necessarily agree, but that's the argument that I've heard. Let me rephrase that. I don't agree. I think that mini sets are a good kind of stopgap there, and I think that 4 expansions would just make it much more expensive.
Oh my gosh, my poor wallet is like screaming from the idea of it. And as neat as it sounds to have like more cards, like
well, and it would be the same amount of cards because they'd stop doing mini sets and they'd use those same amount of cards. That's the argument that I've heard.
The mini sets are relatively like affordable though, right? Because you can get it with gold, you can get it with cash, you can, and then if you want to whale out, you can do that. Now, I do agree with, like, I heard some people complaining that like in the shop they make the first option the golden version of the set, like the mini set, and they should default.
That's a little messed up.
Yeah,
that's a little messed up because I've seen some people buy it on accident.
Yeah, that seems like a problem to me, and I don't. Yeah, I mean, hopefully you look at the amount, or hopefully, I guess, depending on what you do, like it's like, all right, do you want to spend $79.99 or whatever it is? And
to be fair, it's just an extra $0 on the gold. Like if you're buying it with gold, and they made the golden version available with gold now. So like instead of 2,000, that's 20,000. Like if you're going quick, you're excited, new cards, I want my mini set. I could see it being very easy to click the wrong button.
20? Do people have 20,000 gold? Oh my gosh,
dude! I don't want to talk about how much gold I have.
I don't anymore because I bought the last mini set in gold with gold.
Oh gosh, wow, that's funny.
You have people like me who max out reward tracks and then bank the gold and sit on it. And like I'm gonna bring it up. I want to say I've got. Well, let's see what the number is. Hold on, I'm booting up now. You keep doing your thing, and I'll tell you what the number is.
All right. Well, let's. I mean, anyhow, I'm kind of happy. I like the current set 3 with mini sets. It feels pretty nice to me, especially if we're gonna try to do a listener series for each expansion. I could not do 4. Like no, not a chance. There's no way. Like we're barely doing the 3rd or this one right now because of life, and but doing 4 would be like impossible. I don't know that I could keep up. So I think that this is cool for me. It's neat to see. Their kind of design philosophy, and I don't really feel like there was anything like earth shattering here. But I don't know, it's cool. And I agree, like this, their philosophy on the Death Knight stuff. Like, if the class is going to survive over time, there is definitely going to be clear like Frost Unholy Blood versions, and the more and more and more cards we get, like there will definitely be iterations that combine all 3 over time. Like for sure. How good will they be? I don't know, but I think they'll be okay. I think the design on Death Knight has been pretty neat. The combination, like the rune system, is cool, and the idea that you can have this super powerful card, but you can't have all the super powerful cards. Like you can't put all the 3 rune cards in the same deck, and I like that. It seems good. So I don't know. Warrior. I never really liked Warrior. I like Pirate Warrior, and they killed my poor Raid the Docks. So
talk about jeweler decks. 25,155 gold, by the way. Is the number. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the number I got. So like, they're trying to get me to spend my gold.
Yep.
Which I could otherwise spend on an expansion. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we already talked about it, right? How they kind of do this as well, where it's like, hey, you want to play the wild or the Brawliseum thing?
Brawliseum right before the mini set.
Always. Anyways, I don't really have anything prolific to say. I'm happy with the way things are coming. Sheep, what is your prediction on the next one? Are we looking at April, you think? Right?
Right. I think Sheep had to take a buyout.
Oh,
yeah,
you're right.
Well done.
Yeah, April 14th is what my current prediction says. So we'll see how well that holds true.
Okay.
We'll see. I've seen some things that it might be coming way sooner than we expect. So we'll we'll see. But if they follow previous trends, mid-April is kind of where we're looking there.
I was gonna guess April 7th. Like I was kind of like
I
as
can
just
see
like
that.
like around that window, just kind of early because we will have. Don't forget, we're gonna have the reverts, right? So it's like they don't want the reverts to happen for too long. So like maybe in 2 weeks we'll get reverts, and then it's like 2 weeks where standard is a toxic, unplayable wasteland because all the reverted cards are reverted, and like the degenerates get to play, and like the wired players are like, standard's great, our new cards are great. It's like Wild Christmas, and the standard players are like, oh my god, when's the new set coming? Can we get rid of these cards? When can I dust them?
Wild Christmas and standard. That's totally
pretty-
on point, Schmoopie.
Yep. That might be right. And you know what? They always do this, right? Where they release the set right around like it's either my kid's birthday or my wife's birthday or a major like holiday when I've got no money, and then the set comes out. Like, cool. Got no money times 2. And so having it be that week in April would be like right on par. So,
As is tradition.
Unlucky.
well, you think next week there will be a set announcement? Could happen. I guess we'll see. They like to start doing teasers a little bit early as well. And so I think that the timing is probably about right to do something in another week or so, but I guess we'll see.
Especially with
the year
rotation.
soon, right? We've had the year soon.
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
expecting that.
All right. Well, we've been at it for about 2 hours, so we probably should start wrapping things up. We do have a listener series starting.
Yeah. So the next season of the listener series, Lords of Icecrown, starts up today. So if you miss the signups, don't worry, you can still register. And if people don't submit deck lists and all that stuff, we can slot you in, and then you'll be in subsequent weeks. Our very own previous champion, Jules, or Sir Julian the Tall, registered just a little bit ago during the show. We were
cool.
communicating there. So if someone doesn't submit, he gets to play week 1. If not, then he gets to play week 2, and all is good. Let's be real. However much it is unfortunate, some people just miss deadlines. It happens. And if we have more people sign up after the fact, we can even matchmake them together instead as well, which is great. So signups can still happen at esheep.city/B2BW series, or of course there's a listener series page on our website. So go either of those places and you can find places to register. The week 1 challenge, which again we'll begin today, is the first Lich King. While fleeing the destruction of his world, the orc shaman Ner'zhul was captured and tormented by the demon Kil'jaeden, a process that transformed him into the first Lich King. His soul was bound by the Helm of Domination and the Runeblade Frostmourne, all imprisoned in ice. Guarded by the Dreadlords, he was thrown down to the land of Northrend to use the power of Undeath to weaken the world for a demonic invasion. So that is the theme for week 1 is the first Lich King. Decks are due at 11:59 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. The primary challenge is Dreadlord's Infiltrate. Each deck must contain at least 8 demons. The secondary challenge, Total Corruption. Each deck must contain at least 4 corrupt cards. Each player must bring 1 shaman deck, and shaman cannot be banned. And finally, the Scourge grows. This is an iterative wrinkle to this season where the number grows each time. So there must be a minimum of 4 undead cards in all decks for each player. So subsequent weeks, that'll go up from 4 to 5, 5 to 6, etc. So that is week 1 of Lords of Icecrown, Season 6 of the Born to Be Wild listener series. If you have not already signed up and want to play, you can still sign up. We can't guarantee that you'll have a week 1 match, but you will be signed up for subsequent weeks. And the listener series itself has its own Discord server. So if you're interested, come on, play. It's a blast to both play, cast, and watch. That's 3. So more than both.
That's
And it's
great.
very possible to float and or lose week 1 and still go pretty far in the competition. So don't feel like you're missing too much out.
Yeah.
We've in fact had a couple of champions who have lost week 1 in spectacular fashion and then come back to win the entire shebang or get up to the final match. Looking at Schmoopie there. Yeah, Schmoopie played in the finals last season and dropped week 1. So
Literally the
very
dog bomb.
possible.
It was a rematch. It was a week 1 rematch, which was pretty funny.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's definitely possible. Don't feel like just because you miss out on week 1, potentially, that you're out of the running, because you're very much not. Our matchmaking helps curtail that eventuality.
Yep, absolutely. And it's always fun for us to cast the matches and stuff. It's been it's great. So if you're looking for there's always people looking for a wild tournament gameplay that is not just like copy of the wild ladder. This is it, because the deck building restrictions. So this is definitely something kind of funky and different. Ideally, we'll host a highlighted match each week, like right after the podcast proper ends. Hopefully we can continue doing that. So we'll just have to see if people are willing to have their match cast, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if anyone is interested in watching those matches and they can't catch them live, they'll be on YouTube as well. So
Absolutely. And they're always a blast to catch, whether you catch them live or on the replay on YouTube.
Yep. Cool. Well, I think that cool. If anyone is interested in seeing what this is like, again, go to our website, borntobewildhs.com. There's a page for listener series, and it'll tell about this season, but it's got previous seasons as well. So if you want to see, we actually have all of the matches archived, the YouTube videos. So if you want to watch any of the older ones, and the highlighted one is currently the finals of last season. If you're
Watch me
interested.
throw. Sorry, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Spoiler!
There it is.
Oh gosh. But yeah, it's pretty fun, and yeah, definitely encourage everyone to check it out.
It's my favorite. I'm joking, but it is my favorite format. Please, come include yourself and enjoy it as much as I do.
We got a little wacky this time, but I think it'll play out.
I'm so hyped. I think the scourging and growing is one of the coolest restrictions that we've ever done.
It's kind of fun, right?
It's really neat, and like it's on theme. Which I think is my favorite part about the challenges. The challenges that are like on theme and like fit the theme well, or like especially last iteration in Sunken City, when you guys did such a good job of like coming up with like the let's tell this giant story and have that go along with the challenges. Like that adds another element to it that's really neat. That's cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's kind of fun. And we did get Goliath to narrate the whole thing, and so I have it already done and like ready to go. So I have to finish the graphics still, but we'll have it all themed up, ready to go for artwork and stuff to match this theme, and it should be a lot of fun.
Excitement abounds.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that that's pretty much a wrap for us.
It was an action-packed week this week, y'all.
Oh my goodness. So we had a lot to talk about. That is for sure. Again, thank you all for joining us. Everyone that was here live hanging out. If you want to interact with us more throughout the week, check us out on Discord. Anybody listening to this, like, can't just give you a link, but go to borntobewildhs.com. There's links to the Discord and everything else there that you can just one click and get into. And yeah, if you want to, for more wild content, see where you can interact with us individually. Again, borntobewildhs.com. And yeah, Blue Train. Who wants to hear my conspiracy theory post show notes versus tweet? Yeah, I might have to check that out. Any last minute things before we sign off?
Last minute things.
Last minute things.
Cool. Wiser words were never spoken. And you heard that on...
Born to be wild.
Job's done.
All right. Here you go.
That was the show. The show was so good.
Auto-tune had to work so hard. You could hear the auto-tune be like, "Whoa, man, my Mona Lisa right here."
We keep threatening to do a full show in auto-tune. Like we could do it.
You'd kill Blue Train.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
It'd be a problem. It might be unlistenable. Like 2 hours. It would have to be like a holiday special. It'd have to be like a half hour, like get in, get out. Like this is the goofy thing you're doing.
Also, I don't have voice mods, so.
All right, just me and Hydra will do it.
I have to do my own. Like I don't like it. Did get jank real quick. If I was invited, of course. Like that's.
Oh my gosh, we the voice mod thing actually was pretty cheap. Like it was like $30 for a lifetime license or something. But yeah, no, I like to keep Blue Train alive. So
Big agree. Big fan.
I see Blue Train panicking in the chat. Don't force me to look into that.
yeah, Blue, I got a couple things that I got to run and go do. But if you want to chat real quick, yeah, jump on. I think we're just in the Discord. So
And
So,
the host
I-
chat.
I-
Oh, there you are.
I object to auto-tune show. So I know there's a lot of chaos today, but you missed Imik's breaking news about the Nerf.
oh no, I'm still recording. I'll add it. Hold on. I need the. You're right.
That was the smile of the week for me when I saw they nerfed Famine Rider.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull
I
up
was
the.
appalled.
Let me pull up the graphic and I'll insert this.
Pronounce it Mo.
No,
Or is
yeah, no, it's pronounced differently. And all right,
Yeah,
darn
they
it.
changed they changed the Famine Rider's name.
I was so
So
Yeah,
it went
I know,
from, like,
I know.
French Canadian spelling to like it went from like French Canadian like playing center for the Habs to like crawdad farmer, right?
Oh, and
I
Blue
mean-
had a great recording for this too.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to say it because like I don't think I can capture the magic of my outrage on my iPhone.
let me here, let me
But-
let me get the picture up and then I'll play it. So
Hey guys, Blue Train here. Now, Hearthstone made a very important change with the patch update, and I'm here to school you on how to pronounce this card's name. So, before it was Blomo, Famine Rider. With the change, it's now pronounced Blome, Famine Rider. So it's no longer Blomo, it's Blome. This is a big nerf, and I'm incensed that we're not being offered full dust refunds. I'm sure that the Born to Be Wild team will advocate for my rights as a player to get a full refund. Thank you.
blow meh.
and well, not meh. Now I'm very disappointed in all of you because you not only did not advocate for my rights to get a full dust refund for a card I don't own, but you didn't even have it on the show. You're gonna have to do some post-edit wizardry.
Oh, I'm still
Or
recording.
add it
Don't
as, like,
worry.
a short or something. Maybe this is a good inaugural YouTube short for the Born to Be Wild channel.
Oh, it would be.
That's a good idea.
It is no longer blow mo. It is now blow mo. Blow mo.
Blum. Blum.
Why did they do this?
I don't know. It probably was a typo. I mean, any UX.
I don't blow.
Have you asked Goliath? Is this like a canon like fix? Like it was spelled a different way? and
Maybe they
just-
just spelled it wrong.
I believe they fixed it. So here's the. Let me shoot out the link here from the wiki. It says that the four horsemen are four powerful death knights in service of Kel'Thuzad and his dread citadel of Naxxramas. They originally were High Lord Alexandros Mograine, the Ashbringer, Thane Korthaz, Lady Blamo. Blamo, and Sir Zeliek, something like that. Is that right?
Ziliax.
Yeah, like dumb American over here. Blaumeux.
Yeah, they just misspelled it. Blome. It was always Blome. Whatever. It's weird.
It's very blow meh.
I like the original. It'll always be Blomo to me. Always be Blomo.
Wiser words have never been spoken.
Yep. And you heard that on
Boar to be wild.
Giga secret, ultra secret ending.
Yeah, there you go. Like a 90s CD.
Holy cow, there's a reverse side?
See how many people get to the end of it.